Now, the UN Human Rights Council has unanimously approved a formal investigation into last month's massacre in the Sudanese city of el-Fasher following the city's takeover by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The move came following an emergency session of the Council. At the start of the meeting, the UN Human Rights Commissioner, Volker Turk, called the conflict in Sudan a stain on the record of the international community. Shashwat Saraf is the country director of Sudan for the Norwegian Refugee Council. He recently returned from Tawila in the north of Sudan and told me what he saw there.
I think three things that have come up regularly and every single day in every single conversation I had with the people coming into Tawila. One is about how everybody is looking for their family members, one family member or multiple family members, and they don't know where they are. Second is about how tired, dehydrated and injured most of the people who arrive in Tawila are. They need to be referred immediately for healthcare. They are in very bad condition. And the third thing that we constantly hear is that there are still thousands of people who are in different locations and are unable to move to Tawila or to other locations which they would consider as safe. So there are still thousands of people who are in locations that are still unsafe for them to be there.
So the people who have fled el-Fasher and the area around who are in a dire condition, and then the people who are pinned down effectively around el-Fasher. What can organisations like the Norwegian Refugee Council do to help these people at the moment? It's obviously an incredibly difficult, incredibly dangerous situation, and you heard the words of Volker Turk there. So what can organisations like the NRC do right now?
Right now, what we are doing is we continue to support and provide humanitarian assistance to over 500,000 people who are already in Tawila and have been there since April this year, when people had to leave Zamzam camp and other areas of el-Fasher. We've also seen about 8,000 people who've arrived over the last 1 week into Tawila. So we ensure that they have access to water, food, cash, they have access to shelter. Our biggest concern right now is how do we reach people who are not able to make it to places like Tawila. And that's why what we are impressing upon world leaders, but more so on the regional leaders here, is the fact that we need to ensure that there is safe passage for people who are trapped and pinned down in different locations, that there is protection of civilians that is guaranteed, and there is safety and security for aid workers to move into locations where people are trapped and to be able to provide humanitarian assistance in those locations rather than waiting for them to come to us. Right now, it's very insecure in multiple access and multiple routes for us to be able to venture out and to reach people where they are.
Clearly, Sudan is on the international community's radar right now, but do you think that for a time it was effectively a blind spot, and now that the country finds itself in this situation, that it's increasingly difficult for the international community to make a difference?
I completely agree that today, over the last 1 week, we've seen that Sudan is being talked about in the media. There are multiple engagements that are happening on Sudan because of what's happening in Fasher. But we don't need to forget that this conflict has been raging for the last 2.5 years. We still have more than 22 million people who are extremely food insecure. We have 13 million children who are out of school. We have more than 13 million people who are displaced either within Sudan or as refugees outside Sudan. I think we really have ignored Sudan over the last 2.5 years. And today it's not only about Fasher, it's about towns like Kadugli, like Dilinj, like El Obeid, which are still under siege. And we can see something very similar to Fasher unfold in many other towns and cities if we don't do something right now and today.